Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the league already. How much should we improve or move up his dynasty stock? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Marcus Mosher and Kate Madjuk.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. This episode is brought to you by Underdog. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store and sign up with promo code Locked On to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today for the first time this week is Kate Madjuk. You can check her out on Twitter at Kate Madjuk. Kate, you are back from a nice vacation. I am excited to talk about Anthony Richardson. I think you are as well.
I am excited to talk about Anthony Richardson. Though, I'm excited for him. I'm glad we finally got to see a little bit of that rushing upside there in preseason game 3. I didn't get to see him in week 2. Unfortunately, the team decided to sit him, which I thought was a interesting choice considering he needs, I think, a bit more experience. But week 3, we saw some ups and downs. I think the downs that we saw in preseason week 3 definitely just kind of confirmed the reservations we had about him as a passer to begin with. The concerns about, some of the accuracy there. We know the arm strength is there. Had a nice average depth of target, just over 14 yards per attempt. You love to see him trying to force that ball down the field a little bit. 2 turnover worthy plays yesterday, great about by PFF, on 14 total dropbacks. Only completed 6 of 19 attempts, 78 yards. But you got to see him with his legs, and that was exciting. And he had a couple of big throws that they are enough to point out the potential of why Anthony Richardson was drafted 4th overall by the Indianapolis Colts.
So I watched the game last night. I watched all of his throws. And Kate, I couldn't be more all in on Anthony Richardson watching this game. So let's start with the completion percentage because that's a good one. He was being aggressive, which is what I want to see in a preseason game. Like, go try some things out, see what you can get away with. He was targeting, and we can say this for a little bit, but he was targeting Alex Pierce down the field quite a bit. He was making some 2nd and 3rd level throws. I love that. He does need to improve on just like the routine layup throws. And we saw this from Josh Allen as a rookie. I believe Josh Allen completed 52% of his passes as a rookie. And as he got in the NFL more and we got more experience, he started to learn, okay, take the layup throws, take the high completion percentage throws. They just keep you on track a little bit. Anthony Richardson will get there. You mentioned the legs. It's so clear that his legs are going to get him out of so many problems as a rookie, and his size and athleticism. And once he figures out how to take the layups, he's going to be almost unstoppable because we haven't seen somebody with this size, with this athleticism, and that level of arm talent in a long time.
Yeah, I think you definitely you like to see all the traits, and I think that's kind of what we saw with Anthony Richardson. I think that's probably the best way to put it because I know you're excited, but like for face value, yes, I still think he looked like a rookie. He made some throws that he definitely shouldn't have. There were a couple of plays that I thought by the grace of God were not intercepted. Like it was, he made a couple of tough decisions, but I definitely think the good outweighs the bad in terms of his dynasty outlook because that. Like we already know the rushing upside is there, but you want to see some of that ability to take risks as a passer. Now, is he going to be able to get away with some of those throws in season against, top end defenses? Probably not.
But we don't. I don't really care. You know what I mean? Like he could be a dink and dunk quarterback and have a 65% completion percentage. But if you really want like a special player, and that's what the Colts obviously want, they want somebody who can challenge defenses vertically, which is why I love the aggressiveness in the preseason.
And that's why I actually think, Alec Pierce, coming out of Cincinnati was a really great deep threat. In best ball leagues, especially, that's been one of my favorite stacks this offseason is the Anthony Richardson, Alec Pierce stack because of that skill that they both share. I think, Anthony Richardson excels at throwing a deep ball. He's got arm strength for days. Alec Pierce on the receiving end is pretty great down the field. So I think this could be a really nice pairing here. Do they have a good enough skill player group to elevate Anthony Richardson? Like I think that's kind of what you'd love to see.
I think it's competent, but it's not going to elevate him the way that some of these other units. But I don't look at their offense and be like, you know what, he has nobody to throw to. Like I kind of do that in Carolina.
It's not the worst in the league. It's not the best. Now just imagine Marcus, the Colts, with their rookie quarterback don't have a great season, right? And they end up closer to the top of the draft than they might like. Boom, they draft Marvin Harrison Jr. and all of a sudden all is well in the world and your Anthony Richardson shares are going to pass, pass with flying colors. But I think what you like to see about Anthony Richardson is everything we saw, so far. I really wanted to see his legs. We didn't really get to see much of that in preseason week 1.
No.
So it was nice to see him, not just, using his legs to take off and run necessarily, but also had a couple of nice, sack avoidances just based on his mobility and the way he's able to navigate some of that pressure with his legs and thanks to some of that mobility.
So I've got a Dynasty startup draft coming up on Saturday, and I've been looking, it's a super flex draft, and I've been looking at the quarterback ranks and how they're being drafted. Deshaun Watson is being drafted as QB9, about a 5-spot difference overall in ADP between him and Anthony Richardson at QB10. There's just no way that I would ever take Deshaun Watson over Anthony Richardson at this point. Like I've seen enough in the preseason to be like, you know what? I'm buying in. I think he's going to be productive right away because of his legs. And I think by year 2 and year 3, he's going to really take off. What I think he needs, Kate, I like Michael Pittman. I like Alec Pierce. What he needs is that guy that's going to create separation from like 0 to 10 yards. It doesn't have to be a Stephon Diggs like Josh Allen got in Buffalo. But again, I'm not saying this player either, but a Deontay Johnson type receiver on that offense would make a huge difference.
Yeah, I think adding, somebody with like a refined receiving skill set is
a Tyler Lockett.
Yes, like a savant at the position. Everybody's favorite phrase right now. And like a reminder, Anthony Richardson, 21 years old, again, like not the most experienced quarterback coming out of Florida. Like, we
13
talk about, we talk about Trey Lance and his sort of lack of reps. Anthony Richardson kind of in the same boat, except he's actually going to be in line to see some of that opportunity right out of the gate. Super exciting. And you have to enjoy it. And I think what makes Anthony Richardson a better dynasty pick right now, even despite, I just spent several minutes outlining my concerns just about what we've seen in the very limited, sample size from him as a passer. In some of that decision making, like he's got a lot of room to grow there. But the beauty of Anthony Richardson is that he doesn't necessarily need that production as a passer right off the bat in order to be a top fantasy asset because of his legs. And we saw that with Justin Fields last year. Very, very high ceiling because of that rushing production, despite the fact that, even from a volume standpoint, like this was one of the lowest passing volume offenses in the league, and you still got top end fantasy production. I think that's going to be, something that buoys him until he does take that next step as a passer.
Let's talk about some of the other players on the Colts offense, including Alec Pierce and a running back that Kate and I both really, really enjoyed watching last night. We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Harry's. I know a great shave makes you feel confident, clean, young. As you can see, I haven't shaved in a while, so I probably need to go ahead and do that this week. But no matter why you shave, Harry's has you covered for the best shave of your life at a price that you're absolutely going to love. From their legendary high-quality razors to skin products like exfoliating face wash and hydrating lotion, Harry's gives you a premium shave without a premium price tag. Get better quality and a better price than other razors when you get Harry's delivered right to your door. I used to be somebody who goes and buys like the $1 or $2 razors. Not anymore. Well, now that I got Harry's, it's just such a better, more enjoyable experience. There's really no reason not to try Harry's. Harry's has the highest customer satisfaction in the shaving industry, and they're still offering a no-risk trial. Don't like your shave? No worries, it's on them. Get the best shave ever this summer with Harry's razors and skincare products. Get a $13 starter set for just $3 at harrys.com/lockedon. That is harrys.com/NFL, not locked on, sorry. harrys.com/NFL. That is harrys.com/NFL for a $3 starter. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. Every day, Kate and I will be back on Monday to break down all of the action from the preseason. We've got games on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so make sure you tune in for that. Kate, let's talk about some of the other weapons on this offense for the Colts. And we got to start with Evan Hall, who looked pretty doggone good last night.
Yeah, he looked fantastic. And Marcus, let me tell you, like the box score for him this offseason hasn't been great. 17 attempts, just 53 total yards and a score, averaging 3.1 yards per carry. But man, I think he's looked good in terms of his overall vision. Shout out to Ray GQ on Twitter who posted this awesome pass block that he threw, like
Yep.
just threw down on this pass blocking on this pass protection assignment. It was fantastic. It was so fun to watch. I think this backfield is one that is more worth watching than we probably want to admit at this point. Like, none of the running backs have been overly efficient this preseason. So I do think that, the job for RB2 could be wide open. There's obviously Zach Moss in the mix. So I wanted to take some time to discuss this backfield because it sounds like, trade talks are, perhaps heating up. It sounds like there are two teams in the mix. The Miami Dolphins did make an offer. They're still engaged in talks. So the first offer for Jonathan Taylor was declined. Who is RB2 in this offense? Because they might be RB1 sooner rather than later.
You've got to figure that if the Colts do trade Jonathan Taylor, they're going to bring in somebody else, whether that's, let's say it's the Bears that make this trade. They send back, Khalil Herbert, which I don't see happening, or whoever they send back, they're going to pair somebody with Evan Hall. I just think Hall is a clear-cut guy that I want in the backfield. Plus, he's only 22 years old. He's being drafted as RB63 last night, or as of right now. I see Evan Hall as one of the, a screaming value. And the instant that Jonathan Taylor gets traded, we're going to see his ADP, rise right up inside the top 40. So I think now is a good time to buy before Taylor gets traded.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing about making this trade sooner rather than later is the fact that nobody really knows, right? Like, nobody knows exactly what to expect from the Colts at this, starting, presumably soon to start running back role. Now, right now on the initial depth chart, Zach Moss has still been listed as the team's RB2 out with a broken arm. I'm still holding out a little bit of hope. We saw some flashes last year with the Colts. He looked better than he has in his entire career in that short stint with the Colts last year after being traded just before the deadline. So is there a chance that we're just this is just me totally being a fangirl? for Zach Moss, or maybe there's a chance. Is there a
You're
chance?
telling me there's a chance. I don't know, Kate. I don't want to break your heart here, but I don't know. I don't
Oh,
know. I wouldn't count on it.
well, that I feel like I'm just checked out for the rest of the
Yeah,
show then,
that's right.
Marcus. I'm just
I'll talk to you about a different receiver. First of all, Michael Pittman, 5 targets, 2 catches for 24 yards, whatever. I don't know how this is possible, and maybe this is just my bias setting in because I like this player, but Alec Pierce finished with a 0-0-0-0 across the board on 3 targets yesterday. And somehow I came away encouraged about his fantasy value. And I think it's just because of the usage, right? You saw
yes, it's the
him,
usage downfield.
you saw the usage downfield, excuse me, and you saw him draw a pass interference where he was open. It just feels like with Anthony Richardson that they're going to give him a lot of opportunities to make plays down the field. I kind of think he's like a discount George Pickens right now. Like last year, their numbers across the board were pretty similar. Their athleticism is pretty similar. George Pickens is being drafted, as a top 20, 27, 28 receiver, while you can basically get Alex Pierce for free in your dynasty leagues right now.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the size as well. Like he's got a nice frame on him, 6'3", 211 pounds. 4'4" or sorry, 4'4", 40. Not too shabby. Excelled in the vertical, the broad jump. Like this guy's an explosive athlete, and his ability to get open downfield, I think, will be, a key a key part of what he contributes to this team, and a big contributor in terms of like their explosive plays, right? Like
Sure.
I would not be surprised if he was the center point of this team's explosive plays. Like this is going to be a very interesting connection. But honestly, like out of all the quarterbacks that could have landed here in Indy, there's not one that would have me more excited for Alec Pierce
I
than
agree.
Anthony Richardson, just because of the way he throws the deep ball. And that's going to make him so unique. And that's what makes him, I think, pair so well with Alec Pierce. And like you mentioned, drawing those PI calls, getting those like that's something intangible, right?
It's
That
those
like
high value targets down the field. There's going to be some times where he's going to get just one-on-one coverage this year, and his athleticism is going to take over. I just want to buy him, if nothing else, to stash him on the bottom of my rosters right now and then just see it, because it might not happen this year, but I think by next year it's going to happen.
I think it's gonna happen. On the other side of the ball, we should probably also talk about the Eagles running backs, right? Because that could also be a note worth making. Another very confusing backfield that I think everybody might be posing some dynasty value. This is another team, the Eagles here, that have been in talks of maybe being in that market for Jonathan Taylor. My ideal situation, the Colts send over Jonathan Taylor. In exchange, they will receive a picks package plus former first round running back Rashad Penny, who somehow seems forced down the depth chart here. I'm still holding out. Like, what if we had Zach Moss and Rashad Penny here on the same roster? My head would explode. But these are two guys that I haven't been able to let go from for dynasty purposes. So I just really would do anything to see it. But is there anybody that's standing out more than the others right now? Are you buying into
So,
the Kenneth Gainwell hype?
so first of all, if that happens, we're going to have to get you covering the Stampede Blue, which is the Colts SB Nation site, rather than the Steelers. So we'll have to work that out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trey Sermon looked bad. And as somebody who was a Trey Sermon truther, who drafted Trey Sermon in about every single one of my first round rookie drafts a couple years ago, it's just not happening. It's so clear that he's not one of the top 4 running backs on this team. Struggling pass protection, had a fumble last week, did have a nice touchdown run, but just no consistency there. It feels very much like to me that the Eagles are just going to rotate these guys every week. Boston Scott's probably going to factor into this a little bit more than we hope. But I just don't see as of now, I don't see a lead back emerging.
All right. So you're not looking to buy any of these guys in
No,
Dynasty then?
nope,
All right.
not at all. I'm passing or I'm holding on all of them right now, and I'm willing to sell if somebody makes me, a sweetheart offer for Rashad Penny or something like that. But I want to talk about your Steelers because they have absolutely dominated the preseason. Is this fool's gold a little bit? We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Underdog. August is here, and you know what that means. It is the official start of fantasy football drafting month. Get championship ready for your home league by trying out Best Ball on Underdog Fantasy. All you have to do is one live snake draft, no waivers, no trades, and Underdog will set your best lineup every week. Try it out with Underdog's Best Ball Mania tournament. The largest fantasy football contest of all time is back and bigger than ever with $15 million of total prizes up for grabs, including an absurd $3 million going to the winner. Last year, the winner actually drafted their team in July. So don't wait around. Get all those drafts in this weekend. Visit underdogfantasy.com or find them in the App Store and sign up with promo code LOCKEDON to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. That is Underdog Fantasy promo code LOCKEDON. All right, Kate, let's talk about your Steelers begrudgingly. Kenny Pickett, 5 drives in the preseason, 5 touchdowns, touchdown drives. Last night he was 4 for 4, including a nice pass to Deontay Johnson, a nice pass to George Pickens. He finished the preseason with a perfect passer rating. Are you buying that the Steelers offense is going to be like really, really efficient this year, or is this just a little bit of preseason overreaction?
I think it's a little bit of both. I'm actually like, I'm very excited as a Steelers fan to see how things have played out in this preseason because, like, there's always that little asterisk there that says this is the preseason. Like, there are so many different confounding variables. Which of the starters are playing for the opposing defense? Do you have the full, yesterday didn't have the full offensive line? Like, there are so many different variables that can impact, your ability to actually analyze what you're seeing on the field. But they haven't screwed it up. Like,
Yes,
that's the best takeaway that I can have. If the team was going out there and things weren't looking good, even against opposing backups, like, the Buffalo Bills had some starters on defense there, so I'll take that a little bit more to heart. But they haven't screwed it up, and they've looked really good. Ranking top 5 in points per game over these 3 preseason games, ranking, among the Chiefs, the Jaguars, like, some pretty, good offenses, right? Like the Chargers, 25.5 points per game, just behind the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Kenny Pickett has been fantastic. Like, we've seen a much a higher willingness to drive the ball down the field a bit more, not going for as many of those throws like behind the line to scrimmage. He's thrown beyond the sticks at a higher rate than we've seen. It's only 15 pass attempts, but throwing beyond the sticks longer than more than we've seen. Period. I'm very excited. Now, there's a lot of different weapons in this offense, though, which I think is going to make it one to project for fantasy on a week-to-week basis. Like,
Yep.
every single preseason game, we have seen a different kind of emphasis. Like, yesterday, week 3 of the preseason saw a much heavier investment in the run than I think we've seen in previous games. What's it going to look like on a week-to-week basis? It seems like they might be one of these teams. It's going to be a little bit hard to nail down on a week-to-week basis.
Because I do think Calvin Austin's going to get some carries and some touches. I think Connor Hayward, who was really like the 3rd or 4th tight end on the team, I think he's going to get 3 or 4 targets every week because he's just a good football player. We know Pat Freiermuth's role. I think Darnell Washington could become. Yeah, he could get some targets in the red zone. Don't forget about Allen Robinson, who's going to be playing in the slot. I am excited about George Pickens and Deontay Johnson. I think they're both going to have much better fantasy seasons. But if you're projecting any of those guys to be like top 20 receivers, I think that could be a little foolish. I think that's a little rich.
I don't necessarily think it'd be outlandish to project either George Pickens or Deontay Johnson into that top 20. But Marcus, I have a concern that regardless of who you're investing in this offense, outside of, I do think Najee Harris is still this team's RB1. They've come out and said as much, but I think outside of Najee Harris, there's going to be a lot of volatility on a week-to-week basis.
Sure.
Something else we've seen from Kenny Pickett has been a willingness to spread the ball around and, you know, really read the field and not necessarily just throw to Deontay Johnson over
Sure.
and over and over again. So I think, while the efficiency might be there, I think that part of that efficiency is going to come on the back from, come on the back of the fact that there are so many different weapons to cover, and it's going to be on Kenny Pickett to see
Yep.
who's open, and make the appropriate reads. Now, let's discuss Jaylen Warren, because I feel like we have to. Now I'm still of the belief that this team is going to go back to the well for Najee Harris. I think this is Najee Harris's job to lose. I do think that you couldn't ask for a better change of pace back in terms of Jaylen Warren. I think they offer very different skill sets. But Najee Harris, the sentiment has been that he hasn't really gotten a ton of work throughout the preseason. It seems like this team has been kind of keeping him in a little bit of a bubble, right? Like, I think that they're trying to keep him healthy. And I'll say, Marcus, there was one run from preseason week 3 where I was like, that is the vision and toughness of Najee Harris out of Alabama. And that was like one of the first runs I feel like I looked at him and I said, that looks like Alabama Najee. And part of that might be health. But I think also there was, I don't know if there was a moment where, his training and preparation for games changed. But last year, after he was like, there were rumors that he could be going back to the bench. I thought we started to see a little bit of a step forward in the way that he was seeing the field. And it seemed like the game slowed down for him a little bit more, where he wasn't just like running without thought. He was running with purpose. And I think we saw that a lot in preseason week 3, hoping that we continue to see that. But I do think that dynasty managers who have been patient enough with Najee Harris are going to be really, really happy with the player they see in 2023.
I thought last night was the first time that Najee ran like somebody who knew that he couldn't just walk onto the field and expect to get 20 touches a game, because he's got somebody underneath him or behind him on the depth chart that is just as good, if not better. And now you have to run with fire. And now you've got to run. Every run's got to be the absolute everything I give, because if it's not, and I'm not being efficient and I'm not being productive, there's somebody else that's waiting to take my job and ready to step into that spot. So I think there's a chance that we see the split between Najee and Jaylen Warren get closer, but at the same time, see a more effective Najee Harris, because he knows he's just not going to get 65 snaps a game like he got as a rookie with Ben Roethlisberger. Like, he's going to have to.
I don't think that's good for his efficiency to begin with. To keep him fresh and get a running back that you can trust in the rotation. I think that's probably the best thing for his dynasty value, for his efficiency, etc.
Having said that, I'm still buying Jaylen Warren because I think he's the better of the two backs. But that's been very well known, that thought.
Now is probably not the time to trade for him, though. I think you wait until week 1.
Yeah, I think you wait till like week 1, week 2, when Najee's still getting 17 touches and it's Warren getting 9, right? But I think as the season goes on, that gap is going to close. So yes, wait right now while the hype is just out of control. Partially, it's my fault, but partially because everybody on Twitter is so excited about Jaylen Warren. That is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen every day. Again, every day, we'll be back on Monday to break down all of the preseason action. We're free and available on all platforms. Go check out our show on YouTube. Go follow Kate on Twitter at Kate Majuk. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the games. And we'll see you right back here next time.